Welcome to Passion Inspires. Join us as we explore the world of marketing and design and share insights and stories that spark inspiration and drive meaningful change. Welcome to Passion Inspires. I am so honored today to have Beth Fisher with us. And Beth, there are so many different aspects of your life, from pickleball to writing books to speaking to working at nonprofit and corporate world and all of that. But I would love to begin by having you tell us a piece of the story in 2020. After working 25 years in the corporate world, your life shifted. Can you tell us a little bit about that first?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So yeah, as you mentioned, for 25 years, I was in corporate sales. I love people, I love business, so that was a great fit for me. But I've always had an underlying heart for helping marginalized communities and sort of folks who are experiencing inequities in life. And when I moved to Grand Rapids, I went to Mel Trotter Ministries and asked how I could help, how I could volunteer. So that was in 2017. I still had my sales career. And in 2020, they asked me if I could come on staff. And I thought, yes, this makes sense to me. I can do that then. I was at a point in my life and in my career that I just was grateful for that opportunity. And it worked out. I started in January of 2020. And as you know, a couple months later, I thought, I don't know what I just signed up for. It was a big shift, but really it just was a culmination of my 25 years of experience melding with my heart. And I was really grateful for that time.
You have had some difficulties and tragedies in your life, having leukemia that led, I don't know if that was a impetus for leading to your book, Remorseless.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that journey?
Sure. So I grew up Catholic. I'm Irish and Italian. I tell people I didn't really have a choice. I was going to be Catholic. I had a lot of generations of Catholics in my family. And I moved, graduated from Ohio State, as we talked about here. I'm living in the enemy state, but I graduated from Ohio State many years ago and moved to Indiana with my daughter's dad. I have a daughter who's 28. And he went back to Ohio without us, didn't want to be married. And it was in the middle of trying to get through that difficult season of life that I was diagnosed with leukemia. And they said, there's no cure for this. You're most likely going to die. I was 25. My daughter was 18 months old. And what my Catholic ears heard was, this is punishment for divorce. I didn't know who God was then. I am an achiever, have always had a mindset of what's the goal? How do you win? How do you get the straight A's? How do you have an undefeated season on the court? Whatever it is. And so I thought that the way to win at understanding who God is was just to never sin, to never mess up, because I thought that was kind of it. So I was too young to reconcile that, but I was the only person that made it out of a bone marrow transplant. I was in for 35 days. I was making friends. I was racing them around like the nurse's station because competitiveness doesn't leave. And I survived. And my newfound friends, also going through leukemia, didn't survive. So my brain took some time to process that. Why I had survivor's guilt. Why am I here and they're not here? But what that really led me to do, that was the impetus for me going back to school and studying theology. So I got a couple master's degrees in theology, and once I understood the story, because I'm a storyteller, I'm like, wait, this whole thing is a story, right? There's a beginning, a middle, and end, and it's this, in my opinion, the most beautiful love story that's ever been written. So once I understood, I couldn't stop talking about it, and that is really what led me to Mel Trotter and to Women's Prison Ministries, and really to wherever anyone is who needs to understand that they have mattering and value and worth, and that they're loved unconditionally.
So of all the theology, what did you walk away with about God that was different than what you had felt before when you were 25?
It's a great question. What I walked away with is there is nothing that I can do to mess up so much that he will stop loving me.
Wow.
Yeah. It was an incredible shift in everything that I had previously heard and misunderstood.
Yeah, we all need to apply that to our lives, don't we? And our all personal failures and disappointments and struggles.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you brought that belief to Mel Trotter, and now you're working at Mel Trotter.
Yeah, I was there.
What was your role there?
So I was the Chief Advancement Officer for 3.5 years. So I oversaw development and marketing and interacted with donors in our very philanthropic community and really just tried to make a difference in the lives of those whom Mel Trotter serves, which is anyone experiencing hunger and homelessness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, the language shift was really helpful too, because, there are perceptions, there are stereotypes all over the place. And I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. So anytime anybody kind of likes, and also Italian, as I mentioned, so I'm a little fiery. So it was hard for me to kind
And
of.
I'm Dutch, and so we're very reserved.
Yeah, that's right. I have some very good Dutch friends who, But it's interesting to me that people would so quickly label another human, that homeless person, or if they just got a job, right? And to me, I view that as like you're sort of in the cheap seats, like you've never gone through an experience like this. And that's the thing. I am not just a divorced person. I am not just a cancer survivor. I'm a human being. We are all spiritual beings, in my opinion, having a very human existence. And human existence is tough. Like it is hard to exist as a human in our world. So what can we do with the giftings and skill sets that we've been given to make somebody else's journey a little bit lighter? Yeah. That's how I operate.
Well, I love that concept of labels because we also work with a nonprofit that helps people coming out of incarceration, and their label is felon, that we expect them to carry all their life, even after they've served time.
Yeah.
The label of homelessness, the label of divorce, the label of all those labels are really attaching a name to us based on our worst moments in life. We need to look at each other differently than that, don't we?
Oh, all the time. And we have to understand that everyone with whom we come in contact in the course of a day is carrying something, has been through something. And you live enough life, right? I'm 5+ decades in now. And I thought, you don't get to this point in life without scars, without situations, without bad choices, without just understanding, I learned from the school of hard knocks. Nobody really gave me the formula for life. I'm just like, oh, figure it out. And a lot of my figuring out on the fly didn't turn out so well, but it made me the person that I am today. And I'm grateful for it. And so now I am incredibly passionate about giving back. I'd like to be the voice, the female voice for young women who need direction. I want to be the voice that I wish I would have had.
Wow. I saw that you're writing a book.
Second one, yeah.
Yeah, another book.
Yes.
But that one's for college women. Is that correct?
It is. I really want to go upstream. And I think that is such a critical sort of fork in the road point in life. You're coming out of, 4 years of college. And the question inevitably is, now what? And so many young adults don't know what that is. And there's this heavy burden and expectation that you're supposed to know. You're not supposed to know. Why would you know? You're 21 or 22 years old. But choices can be made that alter the direction of the rest of your life.
Wow.
And so I would like to speak to young women about the importance of selecting the right partner in life, because I did not do that on more than one occasion. And it takes some getting through, right? You've got to process grief and you have to look back. And the instant question is, how could I have been so stupid? And that's the thing, is you have to really help speak into somebody's life and say, you're not. You have value and mattering and worth, and so does somebody else. And what you need to do is look at this from a logical perspective and say, who am I? What do I care about in the world? How am I wired, right? What are my giftings and skill sets and passions and desires? And how do I marry that with somebody else who thinks like I do? Not exactly, right? Because that gets boring. But
Yeah.
to have a similar skill set, value set, morality set, that's a big deal. Certainly, I think we can all be easily drawn to other humans, but you've got to go a layer deeper and say, how am I wired? What am I made of? And is this a good fit? Because if not, you got to roll quickly. Cut and run.
So really giving young women filters and guidelines and insight into what could help guide those
Right.
big decisions in life.
Right. Yeah. The tentative title is selection process. Like how do you enter a selection process wisely, with eyes wide open and from a place of both feeling, emotion, and also logic. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much we could talk about, Beth. Let's transition a little bit into your passion for nonprofits. Mm-hmm. And we talked earlier about all different dimensions of nonprofits, Let's begin with what you shared with me earlier about putting on a different mindset.
Yeah, I am very passionate about nonprofits functioning like a for-profit organization, putting on a business mindset. I was kind of disheartened to hear time and time again, and not just when I was on staff at a nonprofit, but when I was selling into nonprofits, when I was volunteering at nonprofits, the resounding theme was, well, we're just a nonprofit. We don't do things like that. Or we don't know what systems we have in place. It was just handed to us. We have always done things this way. And without strategy, I'm not quite sure how anybody hits a goal. And so I was always kind of stirring pots to say, what do you mean you're just a nonprofit? Nonprofit work is the most important work, in my opinion. Like, you are changing people's lives, the trajectory of their lives, the situations that they find themselves in. So in order to do that, why would you not employ business practices to generate the most revenue? I mean, that's what for-profit businesses do. And presumably, if we need money to help people, let's bring in the most money we can possibly bring in. That seems kind of common sense to me, but yet it was almost an afterthought and kind of like, well, we're just. You're not just, you are. And so for me, when I started at Mel Trotter, I knew it would take time to sort of build trust in the teams and so forth. And for me personally to understand operations. But I knew systems, and I knew goals, and I knew how to automate things. And I know people really well. And I mean, we all want the same thing: to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. And so from a donor perspective, people want to understand that the organization that they're giving their hard-earned dollars to cares about them, right? It's a bi-directional relationship. There needs to be reciprocity in that relationship, because otherwise it's transactional. And no relationship works based on transaction.
Yeah, we're human beings first, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because I remember talking with a potential client, and they needed a new logo. It was a nonprofit, but the board chair, who was vice president of a bank, said, well, we're just going to get that logo designed for free. Mm-hmm. Why did he put a different hat on when he walked in as a board chair? He would never say that as a vice president of a bank. Mm-hmm. We're going to get a logo for free for a bank.
Yeah. I think.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you as nicely as I can with my poker face. I believe that there's a misconception about good stewardship. And I think that whether you're a board member or a staff member or even donors, right? It's, how are you stewarding this money as just a nonprofit? Because if you are not cutting corners and getting things for free, then you're really not doing a good job with the donations that we are so kindly providing. And I think that's just a wrong way of thinking. So free, right? I mean, we know all the adages about that, right? You get what you pay for. So why would anybody want anything that's free? I don't want hand-me-downs. I want good work. And I want good work that moves the needle. I want good work that I will happily pay for, so that we can actually have a net result of increased revenue. So I don't understand that mindset. I think that it's disrespectful when people say that. We'll just do it for free. Well, who does good work for free? I don't know anybody. I mean, volunteering is one thing, and I will do good work for you from the kindness of my heart for free, but I can't run an organization for free. I don't understand that mindset. That's not the world in which we live. And I think that it, again, is disrespectful to assume that every nonprofit should function that way.
Well, Charity Navigator has I believe it's 80-20 rule, that operations should not be more than 20%. Yeah. That rule bothers me. Obviously, I've heard Dan Pallotta speak all about that, and I really believe in what Dan preaches. Does it begin with funders, or does it begin with executive leadership? How can that systemic attitude change for nonprofits? Where does it begin?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it begins with a deep affiliation. I think that funders and board members need to be inside of the organization. I think they need to actually go behind the scenes and look at the ops and understand the ops and not make assumptions. I think they need to actually say, let's pull back the curtain, show us how you're functioning. And then my question would be, sort of rhetorically, is that how you're running your businesses? So I think there needs to be some collective collaboration, not to be redundant, but that collaboration needs to be in place so that they can have an understanding of how the operations are working or not, and then think to themselves, we don't do things like this. Why should the organization that I am a board member of, why should I expect them to do that when I'm not doing it? I don't like the level of hypocrisy that sometimes goes on.
So we're saying basically, when you walk through that nonprofit door, keep your profit hat on, your for-profit hat on. Do not put your nonprofit hat on.
Always. I think it needs to come from a lens of board members are presumably mostly business people in the community. They are that's, and for rightly so. But if it is in fact right, then why, to your point, why would we expect them to leave all of their mindsets, to stop functioning as a business person, to stop looking at the nonprofit from the lens of the way that they look at their own organizations every day? No, we need that. That's why you're on the board. That's why we asked you. So don't change. Don't sort of say, well, this is how I operate over here, and now I'm going to compartmentalize and operate this way. That's disingenuous to me. I want people to be the same people that they are all the time, and I want to have a healthy respect for that, and I want to have dialogue that moves the needle. Yeah.
One of my passions is that for major funders like corporate foundations, private foundations, family foundations, those who are major donors, right, who may give $500,000, they're the ones that really can be transformative in their gifts, as you know, right? All of the donors are important, but they are the ones that really can guide that nonprofit to shift. And there are many of these funders, like I know we have done projects because of the Herman Miller Foundation or Steelcase Foundation that paid a nonprofit for marketing, which is quite amazing to me, that the capacity building piece. My passion would be that the whole industry would change and that almost all the funding agents would begin recognizing that. You can't just pay for the mission and pay your staff $12 an hour.
Right.
Because now they're going to be in poverty.
That's right.
Can you talk about that a little bit further?
Yes. I also don't understand why business-minded people expect the same level of leadership that exists in the for-profit space to be in the nonprofit space when we're not paying them the same kind of money. I don't understand that. They want the same sort of results, the same sort of leadership, the same sort of direction for a fraction of the salary that folks are making in the for-profit world. I'm a big equity person, as you are hearing, but it makes no sense to me. I mean, if you take out my emotional equity lens and just look at it pragmatically from the standpoint of I'm a board member. I expect the CEO or the ED of this nonprofit organization to lead well. You're paying this CEO or ED less than 6 figures a year. Would you pay your CEO less than? You would not. No. So there's no incentive other than just trying to find, a needle in a haystack to say we need somebody who is fiscally sound. We need somebody who's good with people, who's good with donors, who has a heart for this work, who can lead 250 people, and we're going to pay them $90,000 a year. This is just what we need. Good luck. Line them up, right? It's not going to happen. So there needs to be an absolute market shift such that the perception of nonprofit versus for-profit is changed, and it has to change. Otherwise, we're just going to keep sort of circling the drain and having these same kind of conversations, which is, how do we bring in more money? We need crisis funding. We need to go to our major donors, who, by the way, are running for-profit organizations. What we need is to bring their for-profit mindset into the nonprofit space and execute that way.
Yeah, one of my greatest concerns through the years is a stat that doesn't seem to change too much in the last 10 or 15 years, and that is for development team and marketing team members on a nonprofit, they are changing jobs on an average of 12 to 16 months. And that, I think you're getting at something of why. And we're losing talent in the nonprofit sector.
Yes.
That's another thing that bothers me so much.
Yes. Yeah. And so going back to systems, and this is not to say that it was the only way to go about this, but I can tell you how we went about it at Mel Trotter. when we implemented a new CRM system, I, again, went in there and said, how do you guys tell me about how you function? How do you do your jobs? How do you know what donors to be in relationship with, to call on, to ask, like, what's your process? Tell me your process so I understand it. There was no consistency. And so when we implemented a new CRM solution and put very specific measurables in place so that, we could hold people accountable, we were able to reorg the department so that people had very specific verticals that they could work in based on their giftings and skill sets. And so that I could say, how are you doing in this area, right? We could pivot as necessary. I could provide feedback. They could understand if they were hitting their marks. Without that, nobody likes to do their job, because you need to know, am I doing a good job? Am I doing what's expected of me? Do I like what I'm doing? All these things sort of have this interconnectivity. And, there's a way to implement systems and structures so that you can actually pay your people well. And so my first question, again, coming out of the sales world, I was a salesperson. I had salary and commission. And my question was, hey guys, I know this might be a little naive because this is just a nonprofit, but if we're paying the development officers pretty much the same amount of money, what's their incentive to do the same amount of work? Like, what's really driving them? Why are we expecting development officer A to bring in $1.3 million and we expect this person to bring in $300,000? We're going to pay them the same amount of money. That's not how humans are wired, right? So can we implement a bonus structure? Yes, we can. And we did. And there are ways to do that so that you can say, if you do this, then you will receive this reward. That is how we're wired. Play pickleball. If you play well, I'm going to get a gold medal. Like, hey, there's a reward at the end of this. And there's no shame in that, because, but there is this, people are very afraid to have that talk track in just a nonprofit because it doesn't feel right. Like, you shouldn't want to make a lot of money. You should just be here because you've got a good heart. It's and both. You know what? I'm here because I've got a good heart. And I'm also giving you 50, 60 hours a week of my time. I'm taking it home. And so is everybody else on our team. Pay us well.
Yeah.
Pay us well. Pay us what we're worth. All of us.
Yeah.
It matters.
I came to that come to Jesus moment about 5 years ago, realizing I was not paying my team what I should be paying my team. And ever since then, that's a priority that I keep getting better and better and better at that.
Yeah.
That's so important. Yeah. They earn it. They deserve it.
And to know your people well. And I love talking about EI in the workplace and brain science and how people are wired, because to establish a good working culture in any organization, you have to respect each other, obviously, as humans, as we've been talking about, but then understand how we're each wired. Like, the way that I like to receive praise or feedback is very different than somebody else's, right? So some people don't like to have attention. They're a behind the scenes kind of person. I am not a behind the scenes kind of person. Great. But that doesn't make me right or wrong. It doesn't make them right or wrong. It means, I'm 5'3". I was a point guard. I'm not going to be under the boards, right? My job is to bring the ball up the court. And if I do my job and I feed you well and we play as a team, we're going to win the game. Same thing with cultures. Organizational culture is taking the time from a leadership perspective to understand what makes your people tick and to care enough about them to want to know.
Wow. That's incredible, Beth. Like, I'm absorbing all the stuff that you're sharing with me. Like, this is so great. Do you want to tell us your pickleball story?
Which one? Which one?
The dude one.
Oh.
Or not?
Yeah,
you
I will.
have a better one? You have
well,
a better one? You probably have 50 of them.
A lot of good pickleball stories.
So you can choose your favorite one.
Well, it's always favorite to me. When I think one of my favorite taglines is "Underestimate me, that'll be fun." and so that was my
that will be fun
for me. Yeah. The story that I shared with you was when I was actually teaching on some EI last week and help co-facilitating that an organization leadership training. We played pickleball in between the leadership sessions, and I didn't know anybody because it's in Houston. I've not yet played in that location. And I was playing for a while, and somebody said to me, "Hey, I watched you play. You play like a dude." To which I said, "I've known a lot of dudes. I'm not so sure that's a compliment." So yeah, I do enjoy it. And
So then what happened after that?
I destroyed him on the court is what happened after that. And he didn't want to play again. But that's just how I'm wired. Again, to the point of Being inside of an organization, people who know me and know me well, that story doesn't surprise them, right? But if I were to go have a new job and I walk in, and it's like, you have to understand, you have to establish a level of trust with your people. And as cliche as it sounds, people truly don't care how much you know about anything until they know how much you care about them. And so you cannot fake caring, right? And the way to care about somebody is through time and intentionality and communication. And tell me, ask, be curious, be kind, be curious, be open, and really understand why you're here together and how can we both, better one another? How can we all engage so that we're doing the same kind of great work together? And you know who else knows that? The community and donors and just the nonprofits. It shows when you have a culture of caring and a culture of we're in this together. We're a team. We're going to function as a team. We're not always going to win. We're not always going to get it right, but we're going to show up as teammates and we're going to run the court and we're going to run the floor and we're going to run the organization in such a way that our mission will be accomplished and people's lives will be changed.
That's beautiful. One of the social media experts that I love to follow is Gary Vee. And he was talking about two things in his career that have brought great success. One is spending individual time with his people, his own people. And two, their marketing strategy and expertise, and that's what he teaches on all the time. But when I heard him share that last week, I thought that is really profound. Like that first piece about how you treat your people was equally or more important to him than anything else.
Always.
And it bears fruit, doesn't it?
Always. Yeah. I mean, no good comes from mistreatment of humans. I've yet to see it. So it's common sense, but so many of us struggle with that. And it comes from a place of ego, and we could go on about this. But if we are going to purport to caring about people in a nonprofit organization, right? This is our mission. We're helping people experiencing homelessness. We're helping people coming out of incarceration. Whatever the mission is, you cannot say that we care about helping that group of people while we're treating our internal employees terribly.
Yeah.
That doesn't reconcile.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems very fraudulent to me. So.
Yeah. Beth, is there anything else that you'd like to share? I feel so honored to have you. And
thank you.
We could talk for hours about different things. Is there anything else that would really be important to you, especially for nonprofits?
Well, there's, I think, one thing to add that we both have a passion for, which is marketing and storytelling. And I think one of the other sort of misnomers is that marketing isn't necessary in nonprofits or isn't given the same level of budget as other areas. And so I think that discussion needs to be had, because if people aren't aware of your organization, then they're not going to come to your organization. But, the old adage of, well, marketing is not a revenue producing department is silly to me. It makes no sense, because marketing is, in my opinion, the backbone of a lot of organizations. And unless you are telling the stories and the impact and the successes to folks that you're trying to engage in your organization, then it's sort of useless to me. So I think marketing just has I have just high regard for that. And I think that maybe changing that narrative would be equally as important as everything else that we've spoken about.
I feel passionately about that. Obviously, that's my career, is storytelling. My son is in film. And he gave his life as a career in film because when he was 10 years old, I took him to Saving Private Ryan. And what strikes me about that is Steven Spielberg, obviously one of the top grossing directors of all time. But my whole point about that is that I shared with nonprofits, you can put out a lot of content, or you can put out content that really moves people's hearts,
right,
and engages them. And it's the creative geniuses in the world that really, to me, I'm so passionate about bringing that creative genius to nonprofits so that their marketing is just so impactful.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Yes, same page. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed being here. It's a long time since I've seen you, and I enjoy this conversation always.
Thank you, Beth.
Yep.
It's been an honor to have you.
Thank you.